Juniper and steam sits on maple, wedged between a thrift store and a barber who still takes cash only. The windows were fogged from the steam wand and the heat. Cinnamon in the air, espresso burned a little. Chloe waited at the corner table in a gray sweater, hands wrapped around a latte she wouldn't touch. Megan crossed a line, she opened. With Ethan. My chair didn't squeak. I set my hat on the empty chair and looked her in the face. You're trying to blow up my marriage. Believe me or don't. She kept steady. I'm not here for a show. I know the long history. I leaned back. Sisters, scorecards, little digs. You want center stage, she already has it. Chloe didn't blink. Then file this as another stunt. But you should hear the rest. I've heard enough. I stood, slid my hat back on. I'm not running your rivalry through my living room. She folded her arms. Daniel, I didn't come to win. I came to warn. If I'd known where this was headed, I might have stayed and finished the latte. I left the clouded window, the cinnamon, the unblinking sister, and walked out into cold Asheville air that bit clean. At home, Megan had the house on a script. Lasagna in the oven, vanilla candles, her old flannel from college like we were rewinding to 21. Music low, not random, songs she knew I liked. She poured sparkling water into heavy glasses and bumped my shoulder with hers. Domestic cinema, she grinned. Remember the apartment off Merrimon? The sink that rattled. Remember the landlord who thought duct tape was a philosophy? She laughed easy and slid me a plate. Her knee bumped mine under the table. She reached for my hand. You are the best thing I have, she murmured, like a line she practiced. I watched her thumb move across the back of my hand and took note of the timing. 2 hours after her sister. The contrast felt tidy. You smell like cinnamon, I said. I stopped by Maple earlier, she answered without a stutter. New roast. I raised a glass. To low rent and rattling sinks. To us, she added, eyes soft. If this was the rival's stunt, Megan was building the counter-programming. Warm movie, the greatest hits, the old flannel. It should have landed. Part of me wanted it to land. But when you do product work long enough, you sense when a demo is too polished. On the couch, she tucked her feet under a blanket and leaned on my shoulder. We watched a dumb holiday comedy we'd already seen twice. She laughed at the same beats. I let the night be easy because picking a fight with a pleasant evening is the hobby of fools. Still, I filed it under Exhibit A. Perfect timing. If I'd had any sense, I would have taken a screenshot of the whole evening and pinned it on the wall for later. 2 days passed. That's when the first crack stopped being theory and turned into a pattern. I came into the den to drop off a mug. Megan was at the table with her phone on the wood, screen down. It buzzed once. The screen stayed down. You always said it like that. I asked casual. Like what? She didn't look up. Face down. Screen isn't going to catch fire. She flipped it over like she'd just remembered. Work group chat is going off. I don't need beeps in my skull. Fair. I took the mug to the sink. Another buzz, silent this time. She toggled the side switch with her thumb, nailed the position without looking. Muscle memory. Good muscle memory doesn't grow in 2 minutes. In the bathroom, that night her phone gave a pulse from the counter. She pivoted and turned it over, face flat on the granite like it needed rest. Who died? I asked from the doorway. She wrapped a towel around her hair. Just Chloe being Chloe. Chloe and her color-coded chaos. Megan smiled thin. Exactly. On the 4th evening, we were on the couch. I was answering a client on my laptop. She scrolled with the appetite of someone starving and finally fed. She snorted. Okay, this is dumb funny. Meme from Chloe. Share the dumb with me. I answered, sticking a hand out without looking. She clutched the phone to her chest. Don't be weird. Not weird. I kept my tone flat. Curious. Daniel, if this were a balanced marriage, this would be nothing. If this were a balanced marriage, I wouldn't have reached. But I did, reflex quick, and my hand closed over glass. For half a second I had an angle. The top of the chat carried a name. Ethan, not Chloe. She yanked hard, eyes wide. What is wrong with you? The tears came fast, hot theater on a 5-second cue. She bolted up the stairs. I closed the laptop, set it aside, and didn't follow. The old me would have chased explanations all the way up the hall. The newer version drew boxes around behavior and wrote labels. Change in phone protocol. Fast lie, Chloe. Hiding laugh lines like contraband. The name in the header. The next morning, I left before sunrise. I didn't slam anything. I drove to an office on Charlotte Street that smelled like clean rooms and file folders. The brass plate still read Nora Blake, PhD. She had therapy chairs that didn't make you feel like a patient and a way of asking questions that made you answer without noticing. She studied my face, not my words. "You grabbed the phone," she said after I laid it out. "Reflex. I'm not proud of it." That reflex lives inside you to protect something. Not to control her, to protect you. But you can still own the form. So what's the move? Apologize for the grab. Not for your sense. And then don't chase. People show you who they are. You don't need to run behind them to read the label. I stopped at a grocery, picked out tulips, pink and white because she liked them clean, not loud. On the way home I texted, "Sorry I grabbed your phone. That was about the form, not the instinct. I'm ready to talk when you are." No answer. The house was empty and quiet. I set the tulips in a tall glass and trimmed the stems because habit is a calming thing. I cleaned the counters. I opened windows for the winter air like a man shaking a rug. The silence had weight. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe with no words, just a short video. A beige room, generic as a waiting room. A simple couch. The door opens. Megan walks in, relaxed like this was the second visit, not the first. A moment later, Ethan enters. They sit too close. He sweeps a strand of hair behind her ear with the familiarity of repetition. She doesn't move away. Her head lowers to his shoulder. No sound, but the silent grammar read fine. Another text from Chloe followed. "You owe me dinner for this. When you're ready." I stared at the tulips and typed back, "I'll pick you up at 8. So fast. She answered, "Where's something decent? We'll drink to the truth." 8 o'clock found me back at Juniper and Steam, cinnamon still hanging under the lights. Chloe arrived in a simple black dress and a denim jacket, hair tied back, no theater. We ordered sparkling water because Clarity didn't need help. "I warned you," she said once we Saturday. "I wanted you to see without my voice on top." "I misread your motive," I conceded. "Put me down for one admission of being a stubborn idiot." She lifted her glass. "To truth, then. To truth." Outside, Maple Street was strung with late December lights. Inside, we sat in silence a moment that wasn't awkward. Chloe studied my jaw like she was checking for cracks. "You going to explode?" she asked finally. "No," I said. "I'm going to move furniture." Megan must have tracked my car. When I walked in with the winter air still on my coat, the tulips were moved from the counter to the kitchen table, angled just so. Megan stood with her hands on the vase, arranging like a set designer. "I found your note," she said softly. "Let's drop everything and reset." I put my keys in the bowl. "Good plan." She stepped closer. "I love that you bought tulips in December like you forgot the month." "I remember the month," I said. "I also remember a beige room." "What?" I pulled out my phone and hit play. 31 seconds of silent grammar. I held it at her eye level without sermon, just a screening. Her shoulders went loose, then stiff, then loose again. "That was one time," she blurted. I panicked. I didn't want to lose. "Stop," I cut her off. "Don't sell me clearance excuses in designer packaging." "We can fix this," she tried again. "Therapy time." "You don't need therapy to quit playing dual roles," I answered. "You need a suitcase." She blinked fast. "Daniel." "Pack a bag," I said steady. "You're not living here." Her hands found the back of a chair. "You're throwing me out?" "I'm setting a boundary. Different sport." "I'm sorry," she whispered, reaching for my wrist. I moved my hand to my pocket. "The guest room closet has an overnight bag inside the big suitcase," I said. "You'll want warm clothes." "It's cold." She tried again. "Can we at least talk tomorrow?" "We can talk when everything practical is separated. Phones, accounts, keys. Then we can talk about why a line is a line." Megan stared like she didn't recognize the house. Then she walked upstairs, steps quiet but faster than normal. I didn't follow. I took the tulips off the table and put them back on the counter. They looked better there. She returned with a bag and her coat. In the doorway she paused. "It wasn't personal," she said, clinging to a phrase that works in other arenas. "It was entirely personal," I replied. The door clicked. The remaining air in the house got colder and clearer. I opened my laptop and started a list. Utilities. Joint card. The small savings account we called Adventures. Passwords. Garage opener. Spare keys her sister had. I wasn't angry. I was busy. By the end of the third day after Christmas, the signatures were on the papers that mattered. There were no tug-of-war games over the house or the money because I didn't play. We split the practicals. I kept the roof and the mortgage in my time. She took her plants and the cookware she liked and the framed photos she could live with. No speeches. Clear boxes, clear paths. Chloe showed up at my place with a worn duffel. 2 days, she said at the door, half apology. I can't be in the apartment with him right now. Guest room's clean, I answered. 2 days are 2 days. Right, she said, stepping past me with the nervous lightness of someone entering a temporary shelter. The 2 days quietly turned into weeks. I didn't define it. I also didn't pretend it wasn't happening. The internet did what it always does. 2 weeks later, Megan posted a photo. 2 matching mugs of cocoa on a coffee table. Caption, sometimes things fall apart, so better things can assemble. Chloe rolled her eyes when I showed her at the kitchen island. I bought him those mugs 3 months ago, she muttered. Nice vision board, though. We were invited to the neighborhood holiday party we always attended in the Alvarez's yard. String lights, folding tables, the same playlist every year. I considered skipping. Then I remembered the rule I set for myself. Don't hide in your own house. We went. Chloe wore a red sweater and jeans. I wore the jacket Megan always stole from me in January. People noticed, because people always notice. Mr. Alvarez handed me a paper plate piled with pigs and blankets and nodded at Chloe with the curiosity of a man who has lived long enough to know a story when he sees one. Good to see you out, he said quietly. Good to be out, I answered. Under the lights, the neighborhood formed little islands of small talk. On the far side of the yard, Megan stood with Ethan. Their smiles had too many teeth. Their eyes kept leaving the circle like they were watching a scoreboard. I turned to Chloe. Dance. There wasn't a dance floor. There was grass and bad speakers. She smiled without varnish. Sure. We moved slow on dead winter grass to a song that didn't match our steps. No display, no dip. Just 2 people moving to keep warm. Somewhere behind us, a neighbor laughed about pies. Somewhere in front of us, a glass broke. Chloe touched her forehead to my jaw for 1 beat, like a person resting. Then lifted her face and kissed me. No angle, no performance. Present tense. Across the yard, Megan and Ethan's faces faltered. Their fight started small, teeth behind lips. You could see the crack through the facade. It didn't give me pleasure. It gave me information. I didn't look twice. I kept moving on the dead grass with a woman who wasn't a project. It was the first time in a long while my day felt like my day. At home later, we sat on the couch with tea that went cold because talk works better warm. Chloe stared at her mug. I don't know what to do about the rest of my life, she said. I nodded. We don't have to build it tonight. You're making this too easy, she said, half smile. No, I answered. I'm making it clean. Work was steady through winter into spring. Consulting lets you pick who you answer to. I took calls in the morning and walked the neighborhood at lunch. Chloe kept mostly to the guest room for a while. Then it stopped being the guest room and started being her room. And then it wasn't either. We cooked breakfast together more days than we didn't. We disagreed about eggs. We agreed about almost everything else. When you rebuild, you have to avoid turning the new thing into a stage for the old mistakes. We talked about that like adults. She told me what she ignored in her own house, because looking at it would have meant tearing down a wall. I told her I mind read less now and ask more. In late May, we were at Battery Park Book Exchange because Chloe likes stacks of used paper and I like listening to people who believe in words. The owner knows me by the shape of my coat. He nodded as we passed. That afternoon felt normal, not headline. I bought a book about a man who rebuilt a cabin by himself because I wanted the diagram more than the romance. On the way home, a storm sketched over the mountains, and we decided it was a grilled cheese night. That kind of decision means your life has resumed. By July, we had our own shorthand. Shared grocery lists, silent corners, mornings where neither of us mentioned old names. We met my friend Mark for coffee on Haywood. He's the kind of friend who keeps his opinions holstered until you actually ask. He sized up the situation with one look at our elbows on the same table. You good? He asked. Good enough to stop pretending it's temporary, I said. Chloe glanced at me. That a proposal or just a product update? Both, I replied. I didn't do it with a ring and a speech. I did it with a simple promise and a plan. We picked a small ring later from a local jeweler who didn't try to turn it into a commercial. Her parents decided late August would be a family dinner to reset the tribe. I knew it was more than that. It was a stage. That's fine. I do stages when I have to. Their place in North Asheville has the kind of porch where you can hear cicadas count time. Her mom set the table with cloth napkins, even though nobody in that family cares about cloth napkins. Her dad asked about my work with the curiosity of someone who thinks differently about me now. He wasn't wrong. Megan and Ethan arrived with smiles that pinched at the corners. They kissed cheeks. They called everyone sweetheart and buddy. The room tightened around them like it does around people trying to sell a brand. We ate roasted chicken and salad. I can tell you the menu because when you've walked through a fire, you notice details again. The talk was safe. The talk was weather and local construction and a neighbor's new dog. At the second pass of salad, I set my fork down. Before dessert, I have something. The table went still in that polite way people go still when they smell an announcement. Chloe laid a hand on the tablecloth, not my arm. That kind of space matters. She looked at me, not to ask permission, but to signal. We're engaged, I said. No drum roll. Just facts. Her mom clapped her hands to her chest. Her dad grinned like a man who just learned his team drafted a solid player. The grandparents at the end of the table fought to stand, then gave up and just beamed. Across from us, Megan's smile cracked like thin ice. She leaned into Ethan and hissed something that wasn't for public consumption. It came out anyway. He flinched and set his glass down too hard. What was that? He asked low. She shook her head, fake laugh. Nothing. I'm happy for them. That's not the face of happy, he replied. He pushed back from the table, the legs squeaking. I'm going to get some air. Don't you walk away from me, she shot back, forgetting the room. Watch me, he said, and stepped out through the side door without looking back. Silence swallowed the table for a breath before Chloe's dad cleared his throat and reached for the pie server like a man who values forward momentum. Her mom broke into a new topic. People adjusted their chairs. Life continued. Chloe exhaled slowly and looked at me. You okay? She asked under the noise. Better than okay, I replied. That's not my circus anymore. Her mother insisted we cut the first slice together. We did. It wasn't symbolic. It was dessert. We planned a small ceremony for late September in a garden behind a friend's bed-and-breakfast on Chestnut. Stone path, white chairs, nothing heavy. I wore a suit that fit because I finally learned to buy what fits. Chloe wore a simple dress without a train. There were friends, and there were people who became friends by showing up. Mark stood beside me and didn't joke because he knew this didn't need jokes. Nora Blake sent a card with 3 sentences that didn't condescend. My parents sat close together like they were setting an example. Before the ceremony, I stepped behind the arch to let the buzz of guests become a dull hum. The sky was blue like an ad. I didn't trust it, but I liked it. Megan appeared at the edge of the path, not in white, not in black, in an in-between that matched her mood. She looked thinner. Her hair was the same. Familiarity burns longer than you think. Daniel, she said, stopping 2 feet from me. I won't make a scene. Good start, I answered. She studied my face like she was looking for a fight. Finding none, she looked away. I chased bright, she said finally. I wanted noise and reflection and applause, maybe. I thought I could keep the old while trying the new. I lost the things that were quiet and necessary. I lost you. You lost respect, I corrected. Then you lost the person it belonged to. She nodded once, jaw tight. I hope you're happy. I am, I said, but not in the way you mean. I'm steady. I'm sorry, she added softer. Not to get back in, just because I am. I believe you're sorry for what it cost you, I replied. It's a start. She swallowed. Maybe I can learn to appreciate simple again. Maybe you didn't lose love, I said, even. Maybe you lost a lesson that teaches how to keep it. Her eyes glistened in that way people's eyes do when they want to be seen as changed. I didn't weigh it. It wasn't for me to weigh anymore. The coordinator peeked around the arch and waved. It was time. Take care, Megan, I added. There's a seat in the 4th row if you plan to sit. She nodded and stepped back. I walked to the arch without looking over my shoulder. Somewhere behind me, chairs scraped as people settled. The music started, simple and unfancy. The officiant kept things crisp. Chloe's vows were straight lines. Respect, time, clarity, space. Mine matched. No poetry slam. No promises nobody can keep. Rings on, hands steady. We kissed with the right amount of public restraint. Applause felt like rain on a metal roof, there and gone. The reception was barbecue and lemonade and bad dancing that wasn't actually bad because everyone smiled while doing it. Mark toasted with a story about my old pickup that stalled at traffic lights when it was hot. The punchline was about maintenance you don't skip. People laughed. I held Chloe's hand under the table and let the night be what it was, our night. Epilogue is a dramatic word for a simple season. We moved the furniture to fit two people's life. I kept the house. We repainted the den. My work stayed steady enough to be boring. I upgraded my truck because I could. Weekends, we hiked Bent Creek and argued about the right trail shoes like married people who actually like each other. We met friends for burgers without turning it into an event. We slept better. We fought about dishes the way normal couples fight about dishes, which is to say we didn't weaponize forks. I heard, through the sideways channels, that Megan and Ethan didn't last past October. He left the apartment on a Tuesday afternoon while she was at Pilates. His cousin's truck loaded the boxes. There wasn't a big movie scene. There was just the slow breakdown that follows an arrangement built on noise. She posted fewer photos. The two mugs disappeared from her feed. I didn't scroll on purpose. Somebody showed me at a coffee shop and I nodded like you nod at weather. Chloe and I built something quiet and visible. A backyard table that seats 8. A calendar with color blocks that mean projects and dinners and family visits, not alibis. On Sundays, we walked to a diner that serves pancakes on chipped plates and sat in the same booth under the same rip in the vinyl, because routine can be holy if you let it. Sometimes we drove up the Blue Ridge with the windows cracked and talked about nothing. That's the privileged talk of people whose homes are in order. When people ask for advice, I don't hand them the dramatic version. I tell them the obvious. Watch behavior, not speeches. Don't raise your voice. Raise your standards. When someone turns their screen down, take the note. When they turn it back over, wait a week before deciding it's fixed. And if you need to choose between chasing explanations and moving furniture, pick the furniture. I'm not a saint. I'm not a sage. I'm a man who left a window open in winter to clear a house and learned how to keep it that way. If there's a moral, it's simple. Respect isn't a song you request. It's a door you close when you have to. Then you open the right one and walk through.